And it, for the most part, had been Don King in a filibuster. But now the fighters are being introduced, and on the podium is Francois Botha, who is fighting Michael Moore on Saturday night on the undercard for the IBF heavyweight champion of the world. That is the White Buffalo. Let us go down to the podium.
The grandfather of boxing could knock you out. I surely can too.
The Buffalo is roaming. Fight, fight. The Buffalo is roaming. It's fight time.
Showtime. So,
y'all got any questions for the Buffalo?
well, it does look like it because I'm in shape. But no, I don't. But it's going to feel like it when I hit him. Bow. It's the equalizer. I call this the equalizer. And it's going to feel like I'm using it because once I hit him, it's like George Foreman said, I hit him if I don't get up.
White Buffalo, y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Buffalo.
You doing a lot of talking over there, brother. Why don't you put some gloves on? Yes, sir. Get busy. Get busy, you coward. Get busy then, you coward. Get busy, coward. Get busy, coward. Yes, get busy, coward. Coward ass motherfucker. Yeah, get busy, coward. Get busy, coward. Yeah, bring your ass up here. We can get busy anytime you want to. Get busy, you coward. Never had a fight in your life, you coward.
That is Sterling McPherson, and he is Francois Botha's manager and trainer. And he appears to be far more animated than his fighter, getting it on with somebody in the audience. He is certainly not a media guy, certainly not one that we recognize. Apparently, he seems to have money on Michael Moore, who is the defending IBF heavyweight champion. We're about to hear from Moore at the moment, or in just a moment. It is not the least bit unusual for these things to break down into utter anarchy, and you're seeing it firsthand on ESPN News.
Sterling, do you want to have something you want to talk about the fight? You can talk about your fight, not about the guy down there. Talk to him, because I want to give everybody an opportunity here.
We come to fight. We come to fight. I got a buffalo that just ran and roam the prairie. He ready to stampede. And Michael Moore, he is a court-appointed attorney. He's a court-appointed champion. Ain't no question about it. They all think that it's normal to say that a white man can't fight. It's a South African. This ain't no United States white boy. It's a South African. He raised with niggas, man. What you talking about? We come to get in that ass, brother. You know, I just find it ironic, you know. I've been down this trail before. I've been down this trail too many times, you know. I find it ironic that every time there's a court case, we end up in New Jersey. I'm just happy we fighting in Las Vegas, where we got a level playing field, where we can get the job done. And ain't nobody gonna stop it. We got a great referee, Mills Lane. He gonna call it the way he see it, and we gonna get the job done. We ain't got to go back to New Jersey. They undefeated New Jersey. Anybody out here is getting ready to go to New Jersey to go to court, you in trouble. You in trouble. I don't understand this. I don't understand it. WBC ain't from New Jersey. Lennox Lewis ain't from New Jersey. Lionel Butler ain't from New Jersey. Ain't nobody from New Jersey but the judge himself. And everybody ends up in New Jersey. Why is it? And ain't nobody saying nothing. And everybody loses. Mike Tyson loses WBC title. Lennox Lewis from London. WBC from Mexico. The man lost his title. Some judge in New Jersey, man. We keep going to this guy. Who is this guy? Is this Bull Connor still alive? Is Bull Connor still alive? I don't understand it. But nevertheless, the end of the day is coming. November the 9th. The real deal is going to happen. The real deal is going to happen. And I'm going to say like Mike Tyson says, I ain't got much else to say. I'm knocking that ass out.
If the grease is, if the stove is turned on, and you can't cook with cold grease, you got to turn the stove on. The stove is on and the grease is boiling. Okay, so we got to call the other side. But let me first, before I do that, let me thank John Devermos. John Devermos is the manager, and Bill Kozerski of Michael Moore. And I want to say to everyone that John Devermos has dealt very honorably. He's very difficult, a tenacious negotiator, but he did his job. And what it is the result, you see the fight that you got coming up right now. So now...
So you're looking at Michael Moore, who is the IBF heavyweight champion. He is probably best known for being knocked out by George Foreman. But he has regained the title, and he takes on this Francois Botha in the undercard of the Tyson Holyfield fight here on Saturday night. Botha is nicknamed the White Buffalo. These days, he lives in Newport Beach, California. He is from South Africa. His record is 36-0 with 21 knockouts. You may have seen him win a controversial decision over Alex Stewart. And then it was Botha who it was detected had steroids in his system. And so in the meantime, Michael Moore and the winner of the Moore-Botha fight could well take on Mike Tyson next, early part of next year. Michael Moore now heading to the podium.
Only thing I want to say is thanks for everyone putting the fight together. People get up here, run their mouth, talk a bunch of shit all the time, but don't mean nothing. They know I'm a real man. I know how to fight, know when to fight. So he can't do shit to me but run his mouth. Thanks.
Woo, the grease is boiling. The grease is boiling. Okay, let's bring up John Devermos and let John, you know, don't cool the fire down, just turn up the stove. Thank you, John.
That is John Devermos, who is the manager of Michael Moore. I want to make one correction. Francois Botha in that decision to Alex Schultz in Germany and not Alex Stewart. As you can hear, boxing is not a delicate sport, and most of the people around the sport are not delicate, and nor is their language. Let's go back down to the podium.
Nothing to this fight, and we'll take him out easy.
Oh, well, you were a victim too, huh, John? You didn't have nothing to do with that neither, huh? You know, being in New Jersey, you was a victim too. Yeah, I mean, you just wanted to fight for the title. You just became a victim of this crime.
Well, here we are, the three amigos, Al Bernstein and John Saraceno from USA Today. For those of you who are watching this press conference live for the first time, it may be entertaining. For us, we somehow have been down this road before, John.
Well, if you've ever heard Don King speak at a press conference, it's a rather entertaining thing to do. But you don't want to do it more than once in your lifetime.
More. And
as we listen to Don King, of course, Charlie made the point that we have seen this, and the beginning portion of this conference was, in fact, a filibuster for Don King press conference. He talked for about 45 minutes in introducing the dais and talking about just about everything on earth that has ever happened leading up to a championship fight, and then you get to the actual fighters. One of the interesting things is all the rancor, though, between these camps isn't always present at these press conferences, and I wonder if it will spill over once we get to Holyfield and Tyson.
Well, it's been interesting because it has been a slow build, and actually at the press conference, I guess it was in New York, where John Horn, Tyson's manager, really took off on Holyfield and what Holyfield was alleged to have said about Tyson immediately after coming out of the penitentiary, John.
Well, the crude remarks have been flying left and right ever since this promotion was made. You know, there's been a long-standing rivalry between Tyson and Holyfield. They were friends in the amateurs, oddly enough. You wouldn't know it now. And Evander says there's nothing personal on his agenda. Tyson claims, Charlie, that there's no resentment on his part, but his actions and the actions of those around him in his camp seem to suggest something else.
What do you think, Al?
Well, you know, you almost think that it's necessary to fuel interest in this fight. I mean, let's remember, Evander Holyfield is something like a 14 or 18 to 1 underdog. I mean, it's a huge number depending on where you go. And it started out at something like 22 or 25 to 1, depending on where you book the bet. So for a fight like this, to have interest, it is almost mandatory for the people to feel something personal going on. This is a fact that is not lost on Don King and the Tyson people, and I think that has a lot to do with this alleged rancor toward Evander Holyfield.
They are trying to sell a product and make it as hot as possible. And we were talking before we went on the air today that this fight and the lead up to this fight reminds me of the presidential campaign. You had Bob Dole, who was a double-digit underdog from the get-go in every single poll, and he never really did close the polls. And it's very much like this. Nobody is buying into the real legitimacy in terms of chances for Holyfield against Tyson on Saturday night.
Well, it's a tough sell, Charlie. Face it, the opponents Mike Tyson has fought in his comeback haven't really given him much chance to really test himself as a true fighter. I think Evander Holyfield is going to bring out the very best in Mike Tyson that we've seen so far. I think Holyfield knows that, and I think the public is going to be interested enough because these two names in the heavyweight division have been so linked for so many years, and finally they're going to be in the same ring together. It might be 5 years too late for some people, but I think boxing fans really want to see the fight.
In fact, it was supposed to have been 5 years ago tomorrow that the Holyfield-Tyson fight was to have taken place. Instead, 5 years later, it will be the weigh-in for Saturday night's fight. So there is some symmetry to all of this. And there still seems to be a question whether or not Evander Holyfield, A, will be the least bit intimidated, or B, Mike Tyson and the bully syndrome, whether or not that can be penetrated. And that, I think, will be the real story within the story on Saturday.
Well, it's unlikely that Evander Holyfield would be intimidated by Tyson. And I think much to that point, he has said early and often that his plan, his battle plan, is to, as Mike Tyson comes in, stand his ground, fire as many combinations as he can, and throw as many hard punches as he can to make sure that he stops Mike Tyson in his tracks. And then, in theory, in this game plan, the next step is to move Mike Tyson backwards, because he says he can't fight going backwards, and they feel he has the bully mentality going. So that would indicate very little possibility of intimidation on the part of Evander Holyfield. The interesting thing about the analogy you made about the election with Dole and Clinton, the fascinating thing here is it's the guy who's ahead and everybody perceives to be ahead, Mike Tyson, who's mad at the media, unlike the election where Dole was mad because they couldn't boost those numbers. So as far as Mike Tyson's concerned, I guess we're the liberal media.
We always have been, and I don't think that's ever going to change. And Tyson has always been the guy, and that's something that you said a bit earlier about how Holyfield fights for the love of the game, and Tyson, on the other hand, fights because of this pent-up rage. I mean, so there's a complete dichotomy in these two personalities, John.
There's no doubt about that, Charlie. Tyson seems to have this passion that comes out in the ring especially, and he takes it out on his opponents. You know, the interesting thing is that 5 years ago, Evander Holyfield was probably at the top of his boxing game. Mike Tyson was at the bottom of his game. And you got to wonder now if the tables haven't been reversed a little bit. Mike Tyson, fresh out of prison, doesn't have a lot of wear and tear on his body. Evander Holyfield, a lot of wear and tear. That odometer's gone around a couple of times on that car.
Have we learned yet whether or not Mike Tyson's ring rust has been worn off by that 3 years of incarceration? Or is he where he should be now? Do we know yet?
Well, he's close. He's close to where he should be. The thing that we still don't know about Mike Tyson is whether the defensive liabilities that we saw when he first came out, and Peter McNeely was able to take him, push him against the ropes, and land punches on him. And he has been hit with more punches than he was early in his career. Now, Evander Holyfield coming to the podium. Let's listen in.
To be a vessel. Thank God for allowing me to change the world with this fight. I know that the victory is mine, and I just look forward to November the 9th. Thank you very much.
Evander Holyfield. All right, so, you know, this is final. We're getting this thing together. And now the man who's his promoter, I want to pay recognition to him because he also helped in making this thing come as a reality. Dino Duba. You can talk, Dino. I don't put chains on my guys. You know what I mean? I don't block nobody when it comes to me.
Thank you. On behalf of my family and the Main Events organization, we're very proud to to represent two of the key participants in Saturday night's show. The first one, along with my partner Bill Kazurski of Fight Night, is the IBF heavyweight champion Michael Moore. I just want to straighten one thing out. Michael Moore won his championship in the ring, not in a court, and he will retain his championship in the ring on Saturday night in Las Vegas. The other participant we're proud to represent is the man sitting to my left, Evander Holyfield. Evander really needs no build-up, no propaganda. It's not necessary with a man who has such dignity and a warrior-like attitude that, in my opinion, is second to none in boxing history. Evander's provided my family, our organization, and the people around him with the greatest thrills in boxing history and to the general public. I just want to reel off a list of fights that Evander has been a participant. It's a particular list, and it goes as follows. Evander versus Dwight Kwawi for the light heavyweight championship of the world. Evander versus Michael Dokes when he moved up to the heavyweight division. Evander versus Buster Douglas when he fought for the heavyweight champion of the world. Evander versus Riddick Bowe II when he fought to regain his heavyweight championship. Evander versus Ray Mercer when he made his initial comeback last year. The fights that I just listed had a common denominator. Evander wasn't supposed to win them, but he did. They weren't surprises to the people that around him and his team, but they were surprises to the general public. Those victories were not surprises to all of us. And on November 9th, Evander's going to provide the biggest surprise of all when he beats Mike Tyson. Thank you.
Well, you know, this is an enviable position for me, because this is the time when you have a promoter with a fighter, and you have your fighter that you promote, so you don't have to go through the neutrality of trying not to hurt one's feelings in case something would happen that you want to be on board of whatever it is. This is what you call truth time, the moment of truth. And William Cullen Bryant said that the truth crushed to the earth will rise again. And Thomas Carlyle said no lie could live forever. You know what I mean? So now you have it, and I really admire Dino's courage. I admire his presentation, you know what I mean? But to Dino, from one promoter to another, it's Dino against me and Mac against Holyfield. And I think it's going to be a score, a double knockout. And so I would say that perhaps he may have two chances, Slim and none, and Slim being out of town. We're trying to get him back just so he'd be able to put some speculation into it, you know what I mean? So it's going to be an exciting evening of boxing. The Evander truly believes, and he and I sat together and we discussed yesterday over the satellite, but he says this mission is before him, you know what I mean, but we're standing at the door. So it's going to be a real thriller for however long that it lasts. It's going to be a thriller. It's going to be quality and not longevity. And it's going to be a super sensational fight that we all awaited, and this is something that goes beyond the realm of just boxing. This is something that goes into this perspective of man. You know, this is a real battle that everybody, the groundswell of public opinion and what is happening with the pros and the cons and those who see and don't see. You know what I mean? But even I got a call from Stevie Wonder and Ray Charles, they can see it. You know what I mean? Yeah, so I mean, this is truly a biblical expression that the blind will see. You know what I mean? And so it's a thing here that we got a war on both sides of this thing, and it makes it even more competitive. It gives it more different leads to stories between Dino and myself, main events and DKP. So it gives us a chance to really go out there and to tell the truth of how we really feel about everything that's going on. And so we got a real show here, and I'm certain that we will be able to make the people appreciate the fact that they got a war going on here. It's going to be a real fight, and nobody can deny it. So anything that anyone have to say, they come with now, because this is going to be it. Or say what they say when they marrying somebody, or say it now or forever keep your mouth shut. You know what I mean? So when you get a war like this here, don't come with tomorrow with the second guessing what I told you, and it should have been that. Say it now. Come on out with it, because this is war. And we are out here trying to fight to unify this title. We're running against a lot of obstacles and impediments, but this goes with the flow of the business. And we're going to continue to persevere, trying to get a unification of this title. And that's what the real goal is. And that's what Evander stepped up to the gate to do. And it's also... that's what Evander stepped to the plate to do, and that's also what Tyson is on his mission to do. He's already won 2 belts, and through some type of legerdemain, one of them is gone, but we got it back honorarily, and so we will still continue to carry that banner. I say, but nevertheless, we will fight till we get the unified title to give the people what they want: one undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. That is the mission that we're on. Needless to say that in this fight, it couldn't have been possible if it hadn't been a man who was a dear friend of mine who has just passed and met an untimely death, and that is Tony Winston Cox. This young man, whom I miss greatly, was the man who didn't see color. He was a man who seen ability and talent, and he reached out and touched someone, and that one was me. The Showtime, through our efforts of going and carrying the banner throughout the time of Mike's incarceration with 2 fighters, at the particular time was Zuma Nelson and Julio Cesar Chavez. Winston Cox stood side by side, shoulder to shoulder, back to back, to help DKP.
Don King at the moment is talking about Tony Cox, who is a executive at Showtime, with whom Don King had negotiated their long-time agreement to do Tyson's fights on Showtime event television. Tony Cox passed away this summer. One of the real bones of contention between these 2 camps goes back to Mike Tyson's incarceration, and whether or not Evander Holyfield had said, as has been alleged by Mike Tyson's manager, John Horn, whom you see on the screen next to Tyson, whether or not he would fight a rapist. And I don't know that Mike Tyson, or rather Evander Holyfield, never said it, but John Horn seems to think he does, and he's trying to drum up business with that quote.
Well, of course, Evander Holyfield has denied making that quote, and it was not in the paper as a quote. It was in the paper as a writer paraphrasing Evander Holyfield, and whether that means he really said it or not remains to be seen. Certainly, though, it has been used as a means of promoting this fight, and I would emphasize the word promoting this fight. I really think that Horn and Holloway and King, and even Tyson, while he's not too much into the marketing end of this, as evidenced by the very little he says to the press, they know that was a good ploy to get the fires raging for this fight.
Well, and then on the other hand, John, there's always been question about the good taste of this business of boxing, and somehow there would be those who could argue rightly, how do you go about selling anything based on the word rape?
Well, of course, good taste in boxing. What larger
it is an oxymoron
could you get than that, Charlie? But I tend to agree with you guys about the promotional ploy of the aspect of John Horn repeatedly bringing up the so-called rape quote that Mike Tyson had slammed back in his face from Evander before he was convicted. But I think more than that, I think John Horn is trying to fire up Mike Tyson for Evander Holyfield. Because Holyfield and Tyson, the relationship goes back many years, and according to Holyfield, it's not a rancorous, bitter relationship, but that the people around Tyson are trying to get him focused to destroy Evander Holyfield. And I think it had a dual purpose.
And of course, Holyfield and Tyson, they know each other going back to about 1983, prior to the '84 Olympics. This is Rory Holloway, one of Tyson's co-managers.
I'd like to thank the MGM, Showtime, especially Don King Production. He has promoted another great event, and we're proud and very happy to be a part of it. Before I go on, I also want to take the opportunity to thank my team, whom I think is one of the greatest teams in the country, bar none. The trainers, particularly the sparring partners, you guys are loyal as you are courageous, and I appreciate every single day you guys come to the gym. I'd like to thank the rest of my team,
of Team Tyson. You guys have did another tremendous job through this camp. We just about went through 2 camps straight with about a 3-week rest. I particularly like to take my hat off to Mike Tyson. He had about 2, maybe 3 weeks off. He continued to train each and every day. Rigorous training schedule, 3-4 times a day. He's in tremendous shape, and we're looking forward to a tremendous fight. Needless to say, this is a very exciting moment for myself and John and the rest of Team Tyson, and I'm sure the fans of Mike Tyson. This is a very exciting time for us. We've been a long time waiting for this fight to happen. Much too long. Holyfield parading around town, talking about, you know, give the appearance of the good champion, good man, bad man, good man, bad man, trying to give that perception. What make him think that God is only shining on one side of the street? I don't understand. He got to meet Mike Tyson. He's right about one thing. The world is going to change. I just hope he's here on Sunday to see it. This is a very, very dangerous fight for Holyfield, not because of health problems. Like you say, he's probably one of the most healthiest men on earth, with all the doctors that checked him. But he's fighting against the most powerful, most greatest fighter, whom I think ever lived. And come Saturday night, he got a real problem. Only he know the value of his life. So if he's standing there and wants to fight with Mike, then so be it. Duke would say he has some interesting moments with Holyfield. He can have another interesting moment with Holyfield. His life is in Duke's hands. He made the fight. You have to carry him out of here. Guarantee you. Guarantee you. Holyfield know what he up against. He know we don't play games. Nobody here on Team Tyson play games. We don't play no games. We not allowed to talk. We bring in the pain. And we see you on Saturday night. But before I go, I also want to say something to another champion of ours in our camp, April Walker. April Walker wear. You always see Mike wearing the WW on his hats and his shirts. April Walker wear, the designer. She's a champion in her own right, and she's doing a wonderful job. Thank you. See you guys Saturday night. Sunday. We'll see you Sunday morning. Have a good time. God bless.
Rory Holloway, y'all. Rory Holloway, you can see that this is a show for shows. This is going to be a movie. It's going to be things that you talked about. It's going to be a making of. All of the excitement is in the air here with all of the guys is there. And any of y'all may want to make questions and see guys. I see Manuel Stewart sitting over there on the stool back there, one of the great trainers of our day. He done had a chance to mess with all of them and see what it's all about. Maybe you may have to get a little insight from him. But this is what is the real deal here. This ain't no jive. This is the fight of the fight. This is finally is coming to pass. And now let me bring up this astute, debonair, suave young man who is the other side of the co-manager of Mike Tyson, one of the most awesome men in the world, the greatest fighter alive, you know, John Horn.
Good afternoon, everybody. Finally, we're here. This is not the second time this fight's been put together, it's the third, actually. And it's a moment for everybody. First of all, I must say that when we thought it was going to be put together first in '91, you know, only God knows what's best. We're here today in 1996, and all I can say is bigger, it's better. More of the world is going to see it because of the communications technology. It's possible to make that happen. So we're here today. That's all that matters. I want to thank a lot of people involved with this besides Don, myself, Mike, Rory, the rest of our team, Holyfield's team, and especially now the MGM and Showtime. Thank you. First, I want to clear the air on one thing, and only because I was called a liar. I made an accusation when beginning this promotion that something was said by Holyfield while my man was in trouble, while my man was away. He said he didn't say it. We found 3 different publications since then that quoted him as saying it. If he didn't say it, he should have a lawsuit against him. I know what he said, and I'm just going to leave it like that only because it was found that he did say it. This fight is made for boxing fans. It has all the ingredients for everything. And there's no doubt in my mind that there isn't a person in this room that God doesn't love. Everybody here is blessed just to be here. So everybody got their own way of God shining on them one way more than others. There's no doubt in my mind that God loves Mike Tyson. He loves Evander Holyfield, loves everybody. In that ring, you got Mike Tyson, Evander Holyfield, and that referee. And the only thing about God's love is this. After Evander gets knocked out, God's still going to love him. Thank you.
John Horn, y'all. I think that it's a young man down at the end of this aisle that represents the greatest commissioner in the world, and I do want him to come up and bless this fight, because without his blessing, we wouldn't have a fight. And while we're on the commissions, I want to thank Jose Suleiman. I don't see him here in the audience, but I know he's here. I think he's sick. Jose Suleiman has been a champion of the WBC and a champion for boxers and a champion of the cause for righteousness for boxers. And I want to thank Jose Suleiman for being Jose Suleiman, a stand-up individual, a man of honor and integrity, a decent human being, a great commissioner and a great chairman of the WBC, who has been re-elected by acclamation with 159 countries. So I think, Jose, thank you. Mark Ratner, come on up here, Mark Ratner.
Nevada State Athletic Commission, we are absolutely thrilled that these fights are here this weekend, and we wish all the participants the best of luck. We thank the MGM and Don King Productions, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, sir.
That's the very articulate and distinguished director of the commission, Mark Ratner. Also, I want to thank Gilberto Mendoza, who just flew in from Venezuela, and I guess he's
Well,
going to make it down here.
John and Al, if you listen to John Horn, Rory Holloway, Don King, and the rest of you, think God is going to be here on Saturday night.
Well, it's this constant thing on the part, especially of Tyson's team, more than anything, to constantly paint the picture that Evander Holyfield and everyone on this planet says every 2 seconds Mike Tyson is bad, Evander Holyfield is good. Even when you're not saying it, they want to say you're saying it. So they want to pin that on Holyfield.
One of the things I've noticed in covering fighters all of these years, they always create an obstacle for them to overcome, whatever it is. In this case, good versus evil. And, or in the case of, say, George Foreman fighting for elder statesmen. Each fighter has their own particular cause, and this one seems to be good versus evil.
Well, the us versus them theme is always a popular one to use in boxing, Charlie. And to be a fighter, you need to be motivated to train. They try to push any psychological button possible.
But what's interesting is, in the case of Tyson and his camp, you rarely, if ever, hear from Tyson on this issue. It's always Horn or Holloway or usually and loudest Don King.
Well, we rarely hear from Tyson on any issue, but of course in the interview he did with ESPN, you know, it's true, what can I tell you? But in the interview he did with ESPN with Mark Schwartz, he did touch on that a lot, quite a bit. We ran some of it on our ESPN Top Rank Boxing show. The fact of the matter is that I think it is Mike Tyson's view. I think they are simply acting as mouthpieces for him.
We still haven't heard from Mike Tyson yet. And there is Evander Holyfield, whom we have heard very little from. And I gather, as they're wont to say in this sport, they're going to let their fists do the talking here on Saturday night at the MGM Grand. I gather it's not quite sold out, but it's pretty close to it. So you'll have about 19,000 people inside this arena. Don King is going on and on and on, and if you are joining us in midstream, this press conference actually began, I guess, what, about an hour and a half ago, or about an hour and a half ago. We've been on the air maybe half that time.
Give till it hurts. This is a telephone, isn't it?
It seems that way, too. Who is that down there on the podium with King at the moment? This is not the least bit unusual either. It is Bob Lee Jr., we're told, the IBF commissioner, or the son of the commissioner. We also found out at this press conference today what this Walker wear is. There's a woman named Alice Walker who designs clothes for Mike, and so that is what this little free plug is all about.
It's interesting. Mike Tyson's looked very loose during this entire afternoon. I thought Evander Holyfield looked a little tight when he came in this morning.
Sometimes, you know, when we judge fighters at the weigh-ins or press conferences, I wonder if we make too much out of their particular mood in a morning. Because, I was going to say,
you never know.
Yeah, in the case of Mike Tyson, half the time he's sound asleep at these press conferences, or at least looks as if he is.
As we saw, at one point he did rest. I kind of reminded me of kindergarten, where you take the period and you say you want to rest for part of it. And actually, can I be honest, this is one of the areas where I really agree with Mike Tyson. At most of these press conferences, I have often been called upon to do that, but you never really do it. And guess what? If there's anyone at this press conference who I think can have the chutzpah to do it, it's Mike Tyson. And guess what? He sets the tone, and he does it. So he decides he's going to take a rest, he does it.
He's getting $30 million to show up. He can sleep whenever he wants.
Who's going to tell him no?
Let's go to the podium once again.
Has double shock power. And so I say, what is double shock power? He says, he be big and clean of martial arts. He got double shock power. He explained to me that the man rips punches, don't throw punches. Every part of his body is like Manishkov, or whatever his name is. The guy who can do the ballet and do this, Marishnikov, this guy that do the twirl his feet up in the air, the thing, and like a pirouette that can pirouette. He uses balance power. It's something that's different from all the Chinese and the Asians, you know what I mean, and the Koreans and all that know about martial arts, that they can take their finger and knock you out, you know what I mean, because he knows every part of the body, you know what I mean, how to go to the cardiovascular region, the cranium, the jaw, the spleen, the liver, the kidney, you know what I mean, and dissect you methodically and calculatedly, you know what I mean, with double shock power, you know what I mean, and the third power, you get the triple shock, that's lethal. You understand? So this Chinese, this man 106 years old, had nothing to act, no extra grind, but when they see martial arts and when they see fighters that can fight with combat, they come out of the woodwork, and so all of China is going to see this fight because he has double shock power. You know, all of Russia is going to watch this fight because he has double shock power. You know what I mean? All of the people in Indonesia, you know what I mean, in India, there he is there waving from Indonesia because he got double shock power. You know, they're going to be looking at him all over the Far East and the Middle East that have never taken fights. The MSBS, whatever they call themselves, is the Middle East Broadcasting System. Every Muslim will be out there looking in prayer, you know what I mean, for Akbar, because he got double shock power. You know what I mean? So this man that I'm telling you is the greatest fighter I've ever seen. He is a fighting machine, a living anatomy of how to dish out pain. You know what I mean? And so now I'm going to introduce him to you, the champion of the world, the people's champion, Mike Tyson, double shock power.
I bear witness there's one God, and I bear witness that Prophet Muhammad is the prophet of God. I'm just happy to be here, and I thank Allah for allowing me to finish this camp healthy, strong, looking forward to this fight. And I know everyone's excited, and they're saying things, you know what I mean, a little bit overextensive, but I'm here to do my job. I'm sure you have an interesting night, and you won't forget it. Thank you.
All right, now, it's been a long evening and morning. Now, if we want to get any questions from the press, anybody got any questions before we go into, you got the guy with the microphone, 2 microphones are out there. Let's get it on for whatever you want to hear, say, do. You know what I mean? We want you to ask your questions, and let's get it so we can take the photograph, and these guys can get ready for war. Who are you asking the question to?
I don't predict any rounds. I'm just looking forward to expressing a lot of pain.
Question.
I'm Jim Litkey with the Associated Press. Both of you guys answer a question of what's the difference between now and if you would have fought 5 years ago, other than you're both older?
The question is, Evander, what is the difference between now and then 5 years ago? Quiet, please. Speak, Evander.
I feel that the difference is just time and the most important thing, I have more knowledge. So because knowledge is power, then, you know, I stand to win.
I would have beaten him earlier.
Don,
did you get that, AP? You got both answers? All right, yes.
Don is the greatest promoter in the world. Why is it that you have so much trouble selling out fights that involve two of the greatest fighters in the history of the world?
I've never had any trouble selling out fights that, I don't know what planet you've been on, you know. I think that you're mixed up and confused, you know, you're wandering through the desert. And so we've never had no trouble selling out no fights, that's what it is. And so I don't know what you're talking about, so I can't respond to that, but this fight will be a sellout. You know what I mean? It's done, brother. So I don't know what you're doing. But one thing I can say, though, you know, maybe Kirk is the master of some type of magic Greek. So when they say they gave us $15 million, he gives me a check for $15 million. So I don't know. Maybe he's subsidizing me. I don't know what it is. You know what I mean? They always said that Kirk Kerkorian was a genius because they questioned him about Chrysler. He came out on top. They questioned him about every move that he makes. He's sort of a subdued, subliminal person, but he comes across like a giant. So my money's on Kirk Kerkorian and his checks. They've never bounced yet.
Don.
I'm from Houston, Red Jones of the Sports Report. One question for Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson, you feel as though most people feel that most of your fights are won before you get in the ring. Do you feel this one is?
I don't know what anyone feels. My objective is to make my opponent feel my punches.
Don.
Evander Holyfield, how would you deem yourself as opposed to the 91 and you're coming to fight Mike Tyson now? Will you switch up your styles or will you attack him as he attacks you?
Well, I'll be led by the Spirit. Whatever the Spirit leads me to do, that's what I would do.
Hi, I'm Harry Connick Jr. I'm reporting for The Tonight Show. I have a question for Evander. Evander, I just wanted to know, do you think you could take out Jay Leno?
Well, yeah, that'd be easy because he got a big chin.
Thank you.
Lisa Harris, UPI. I want to ask each fighter what fights you've seen the other one fight that have impressed you. I'm particularly wondering if, Mike, you ever said in a fight Evander fought, what does it take to get this guy down? And Evander, did you ever think watching one of Mike's fights, like, what would it be like to hit that hard? And I'm curious if either of you have ever been impressed by the other one.
Who want to be? Go and talk to him.
Well, you know, I've watched Mike for a long time, and it always impressed me and things that he did, and because I'm one of the type of guys that deal realistic. If the chance of me being the heavyweight champion of the world, I have to fight the best and I have to be ready for the best. So if I didn't watch his fight, then I would be putting myself in a situation to be surprised. But because I have watched him for a long time, I'm not surprised about anything.
I think he's a beautiful fighter. I just believe I'm better.
Yes, this is Richard Hansen with the News Pilot.
We can't hear you.
Richard Hansen with the News Pilot. I wanted to ask you guys, I know you guys went one round and Pat Nappy stopped it. Are you guys going to pick up where you left off? And how did that go?
Well, that was just an amateur, and we were just sparring. But it really don't have no outcome on this fight here. We both are professional. We both are the best, and when the best get in the ring, then we both perform to the level that we are.
I'm just ready to get down, man.
Question.
Question for Mike is John Phillips with Reuters. Just to change the subject a little bit, is it true that you're a big fan of Christy Martin's? You watch her tapes. So just tell me a little bit about what you think of her fighting. She's the fourth time she's on your card, and what does it mean to you?
I've seen women fighting from the beginning since Cat Davis and those guys when I was younger, and she's the best I've seen so far. And she really actually knows how to fight. You know, before in the beginning, you'd see women in there punching, you know, that just takes you back because you're not accustomed to seeing that. But at this particular time and at this stage, most of the women fighting now are able to fight.
Question.
Mike, I noticed at the last fight, the post-fight press conference after Bruce Seldon, that when Evander got up and was speaking of what he was going to do and how he was going to take your championship, you got up and said, hey, man, you ain't got nothing coming here. You ain't taking nothing. I've never saw you get this emotionally, normally, you know, related to a press conference. Is this the first time that you've been this stimulated in quite a while about a fight?
I'm just interested in showing you my thing. This is what I do. You know, he believes he's the best fighter in the world. I definitely know I'm the best fighter in the world. And we're going to see Saturday night.
Okay, you seem to be pretty emotionally up for this fight.
Oh, I am.
It's going to be a great fight as long as it lasts, buddy.
Question. I recognize Jimmy Benz out there in the audience also, and Shamsuddin Ali, but Jimmy Benz represents the WBA. Yes, Jimmy Benz and Shamsuddin. Question.
Hi, Mike. It's Carlos Giron from the Jersey Journal. Ahora que Chávez ya tiene una edad avanzada, ¿a quién consideras el mejor peleador latino? Who do you consider the best Latin fighter today?
Today? Oh, we got Ricardo Lopez here. You know, this. We can go along. We got Julio Cesar Chavez. We got so many fighters. The greatest Latin fighter of all times, Roberto Duran.
Thank you.
Don, over here.
Question.
Evander, are you a better fighter than the last Bo fight? A lot of us felt like you just didn't make a good showing that night, even though you had a lot of heart.
Well, I'm a lot better. The whole thing is that, you know, my past is my past, and I don't live on my past. I live for the present. You know, I know that November the 9th, whatever it takes, I have it, and I will be victorious.
Don, over here.
Question.
Vinny Perone of the Washington Post. Evander, there seem to be some persistent questions still about your cardiovascular health. Could you comment on that and just say how you feel in general?
Well, you know, that's in the past too. You know, everything I bring to this fight is new, and is quite different from my past. But I do thank God for my past, because I truly feel that that's the reason I got the opportunity for this fight, because I was going down, but I'm better, and I look forward to November the 9th, and you know, it'll be a great outcome.
Over here. Mr. King, this way.
Which way? The other way. Okay, question.
Mike, I'm one of your fans. I come far away from Indonesia.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. Mike, let me ask you a question. You lost to Buster Douglas in Tokyo. Buster Douglas lost to Holyfield. How do you feel that? How do you maintain to have the fight? Thank you.
I'm going to beat him.
Question. Anybody else that's got anything they want to say now? Okay, Mike Marley, let's get to, that's what you want to set the photo session? The photo session. Thank you very much.
You have seen what we have been covering for years, sometimes the theater of the absurd. And, you know, for such a fight of this magnitude, which I guess probably will gather more attention than almost any fight in 1996, it was like pulling teeth getting questions from the media. And I think part of the problem is that, certainly in Mike Tyson's case, he doesn't say but 3 or 4 words per answer.
Well, and I think part of it is that so much has already been said and so much has already been written about this bout that I don't know that there's too much new ground to cover. During the course of this press conference, the other people speaking on behalf of Holyfield and Tyson really dealt with most of the controversies and most of the issues that we've wondered about. This was a subdued Holyfield and Tyson. These were 2 guys that, even though you can see the fires burning, they weren't looking to, quote-unquote, put something on the other guy's bulletin board.
Not anymore. I mean, now it's the next time they'll see one another is tomorrow at 6:30 Eastern Time, 3:30 Pacific, here in the MGM Grand, where the weigh-in will take place. And, of course, we will have that live for you on ESPN. And some final thoughts, John Saraceno, about what we saw today and how we were able to share with our audience what we have been subjected to all these years.
I don't think anything unusual, Charlie. We saw a typical Don King press conference with a lot of syllables and more adjectives than you'll see in USA Today in an entire week. And Mike Tyson, if you look up the word loquacious in the dictionary, you will not see Mike's picture there. But he lets these do his talking. Evander Holyfield, once again, one of the most dignified and confident champions, ex-champions I've ever had the pleasure of knowing.
Final thoughts for you?
Well, I think what this did, I think for those of you watching, was give you an idea of the ebb and flow of these kinds of events, and also give you the idea that what's done at these press conferences to a great extent is people trying to make things happen that will sometimes pump up fighters, as you pointed out, and sometimes pump up the people that are supporting them, that are out here looking at them, vis-a-vis managers, promoters, even backers. So there's a lot going on at these events.
And I think what we saw today certainly was an ESPN News first. The first mention of Baryshnikov out of Don King's mouth.
Was that Baryshnikov?
Is that what he
or
said?
Baryshnikov?
Somewhere in there was a quasi-mention of Baryshnikov. And we'll see you tomorrow on the weigh-in on ESPN at about 6:30 Eastern Time on SportsCenter later. Now let's go back to Chuck Garfien at ESPN News in the newsroom. Chuck?
Thank you very much, Charlie. Yes, they did say Baryshnikov. We heard it here. Yes, that was the Tyson Holyfield press conference, entertaining us for about an hour there. Very exciting stuff. Tyson, an 11-1 favorite to beat Holyfield on Saturday. By the way, Holyfield has said he feels great and is going to try to become the first fighter to beat Tyson since Buster Douglas did back about 6 years ago. We're going to send it to a break here on ESPN News and be back.